Ania Titizian.
And I'm Rubina Margosian, and this is the Week in Review.
Every week, we bring you the stories shaping Armenia and the region.
From politics and policy to social issues and conflict, we break down the news and what it means for you.
This week in the news, Baku continues to accuse Armenia of ceasefire violations. Armenia and Iran hold joint military exercises, and alarming rates of road accidents are on the parliament's agenda. These stories and more in our weekly roundup of the news.
Baku continues to accuse Armenia of violating the ceasefire. The Armenian Defense Ministry has denied the allegations, reiterating that Yerevan is ready to investigate every reported incident, provided Azerbaijan presents evidence. Last week, residents of Khanazakh and Khoznavar villages in the Sunnik region reported hearing gunfire from the Azerbaijani side. This week, similar reports came from border communities in the Gegharkunik region. While a house was damaged in Khanazakh last week, reports from Gegharkunik suggest that the villages there have not been directly targeted. Meanwhile, Armenia's defense ministry once again noted that irregular, non-targeted gunfire is occasionally registered along the border. It also emphasized that in cases of intensive, significant, or deliberate ceasefire violations, it issues official statements. Amid the Azerbaijani accusations, the EUMA announced that starting from March, it has increased the number of night patrols along the Armenian side of the border to enhance nighttime security and safety and relieve possible tensions. According to the mission, the monitors remain committed around the clock, ensuring continuous presence day and night. In the meantime, Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova called on both Yerevan and Baku to show restraint, take steps to ease tensions, and avoid actions that could make the situation worse. She also emphasized that Russia is ready to assist its partners in resolving their differences by signing a peace agreement, unblocking transport and economic links, working on border delimitation, and addressing humanitarian issues, all in line with the trilateral agreements between the leaders of Russia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia.
And Azerbaijan continues to raise the issue of landmine maps. This week, the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry called on the international community to recognize the urgency of mine action, to support Azerbaijan's ongoing demining efforts, and to hold Armenia accountable for what it described as deliberate and widespread landmine contamination, posing a continued threat to civilians and slowing post-conflict recovery. The statement came after a landmine explosion injured 4 Azerbaijani citizens, 2 of them children. In response to Baku's demands for more accurate maps, Armenian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ani Badalyan reiterated that Armenia has already provided all available maps and that there are no better or more accurate versions. She added that Armenia remains ready to verify the accuracy of the maps with the involvement of international experts. Badalyan said that acknowledging the humanitarian importance of the issue, Armenia had unilaterally provided Azerbaijan with 972 minefield records on 5 different occasions back in 2021, without any preconditions. In early 2024, Armenia also compiled and transferred additional minefield records based on updated inquiries as part of its ongoing commitment to humanitarian cooperation.
And for the first time since independence, Armenia and Iran held joint military exercises on April 9 and 10. The drills took place along the Armenia-Iran state border, with each side remaining on its territory. The exercises simulated coordinated operations to neutralize hypothetical terrorist attacks on border checkpoints. Iran's embassy in Yerevan said it is aimed at enhancing border security, improving the readiness of the military forces of both countries to counter potential threats, maintaining lasting peace, and promoting bilateral defense cooperation. The deputy commander of operations of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps ground forces said there is no threat present in the border areas between the two countries, and it is being conducted to, as we said, maintain combat readiness, fight terrorism, and ensure lasting peace. Iranian state media said the exercises included light and heavy weapons, demonstrations of special forces sniper skills, demolition operations, explosions, and fire support. The extent and range of Armenia's security and defense ties with Iran remains largely unknown. In March of 2024, Armenian Defense Minister Suren Babikyan visited Tehran for the first time since 2017 and met his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Reza Ashtiani and reached several agreements of mutual interest and discussed prospects for future developments. Ashtiani told reporters days later that Tehran is expanding defense defense cooperation with Armenia. No further details were reported.
This week, the second EU expert mission on visa liberalization arrived in Armenia to assess the country's progress on meeting the necessary benchmarks. The delegation is expected to issue a report following the visit. This is the second visit of the group this year. The first one was back in February. The results of the two visits will form the basis for an EU visa liberalization action plan, which is set to be finalized by June. Once adopted, Armenia will begin submitting annual progress reports. If all requirements are met, the country could eventually qualify for a visa-free regime with the EU. Nelly Tavtian, head of Armenia's Migration and Citizenship Service, says one of the most challenging components of the process is the introduction of biometric passports, a core EU requirement, and work is already underway to meet that standard. Production of biometric passports and ID cards is expected to begin in the country in mid-2026. Tavtian noted that implementing the system has become a key priority for Armenia, as it would ultimately enable citizens to travel freely across the EU.
And Maria, this biometric system has definitely been a problem for so long because we used to have it.
And then we didn't have it.
And then we didn't have it. And then we had it, but it was not up to par or to the European standards. So we kind of initiated and then didn't follow up with it several times. Hopefully this time is the
if we want
charm.
visa-free regime, I mean, this is what we have to do. So,
well, this weekend, Foreign Minister Arat Mirzoyan is heading to Turkey for the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. While his full agenda hasn't been made public, Armenia's foreign ministry has confirmed that on April 12th, he'll join his Azerbaijani and Georgian counterparts for a panel titled Challenges and Opportunities for Regional Cooperation in the South Caucasus. Meanwhile, Deputy Foreign Minister Vahan Kostanyan has met with his Turkish counterpart, Beris Ekinci. Kostanyan posted on X that they had an important conversation about advancing the normalization process and identifying new areas for cooperation. This is Armenia's third time participating in the Antalya Forum. And as a reminder, Yerevan and Ankara appointed special envoys to work on normalizing ties in 2021. Since then, several agreements have been reached but not implemented, including opening the land border to third country citizens and diplomatic passport holders, restoring the historic Ani Bridge, and assessing the Gyumri-Kars Railway for a possible reopening. And special envoys Ruben Rubinian and Sirdar Kilic met today during the forum. Rubinian posted on X that the two had a good discussion on the normalization process. No further details have been revealed about the meeting so far.
Earlier this week, Armenia's Central Electoral Commission finalized the results of the March 30 municipal elections in Gyumri and Parakar and announced the official distribution of seats in the newly elected city councils. In Gyumri, civil contracts secured 14 seats, the Communist Party 8, the Our City Alliance 6, My Strong Community Alliance 3, and Mother Armenia Alliance 2 seats. As we noted last week, Mardun Grigoryan of the Our City Alliance has announced that he is throwing his support behind Vartan Ghulgasyan's mayoral bid, though he did express some reservations. The new Gyumri City Council is set to hold its first session on April 16, during which time a mayor will be elected. And just again, so there's 33 seats in the Gyumri City Council, 17 are needed. Civil contract has only 14. So it seems that the opposition are all banding together, but it still remains seen what's going to happen on April 16. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. And meanwhile, in Parakar, this is a town just, on the outskirts of Yerevan. The Unity Alliance will hold 12 seats. Civil Contract 7, this is the ruling civil contract in the parliament, and the National Progress Party 2.
The Helsinki Citizens Assembly Vanadzor office released its 2024 report on deaths in Armenia's armed forces this week. According to the organization, there were 40 deaths just last year, 4 due to Azerbaijani ceasefire violations and the rest in non-combat situations. Meanwhile, the Prosecutor General's office reports a lower figure. 27 servicemen died in 2024, down from 54 the year before. The drop is attributed to fewer were ceasefire violations by Azerbaijan and no incidents involving mishandling of ammunition, which in 2023 had caused 17 deaths. For the same year, the Helsinki Citizens Assembly Vanadzor office had reported 83 deaths, including in the Artsakh Defense Army. The discrepancy comes from the methodology. While official sources only count cases directly linked to military service, the Helsinki office includes all deaths of servicemen, whether on duty or not, arguing that every loss impacts military capacity and deserves scrutiny, especially when service conditions may have played a role.
And Armenia's Parliamentary Commission on Defense and Security held a 6-hour hearing this week to address the country's concerning rates of car accidents. Deputy Prime Minister Dikran Khachadurian, police officials, NGOs, and other stakeholders took part in that meeting. Committee Chair Andranik Kocharian highlighted that on average, 1 person dies and 16 are injured on Armenia's roads every single day. He attributed this to poor infrastructure, weak traffic management, and a lack of public awareness. I would attribute it to careless driving as a driver, but okay, moving on.
As a pedestrian, I would definitely attribute a lot of it to careless driving and almost like taking ownership of the road if you're in a car, no understanding that a pedestrian is more vulnerable.
Yeah, well, and then there are pedestrians who don't follow traffic rules. So it's all around, we need a good shake-up. Anyway, Deputy Chair Armen Khachadurian shared the alarming statistics. So in 2024, there were over 4,300 accidents that resulted in 333 deaths. This is in one calendar year, and more than 6,000 injuries. And this is for a country of less than 3 million. Okay. In the first 3 months of 2025, there have already been 60 deaths. And over the past decade, road accidents have claimed more than 3,600 lives and left 2,000 to 3,000 people with, lifelong disabilities. Chief of Police Aram Hovanesyan noted a 6.5 decrease in accidents. Attributing this to the nationwide deployment of the patrol service and more targeted policing. He also mentioned that the number of vehicles in Armenia has increased by 400,000 from 2015 to 2024. Khachadurian emphasized that in response to the growing issue, the government has implemented a stricter process for obtaining a driver's license. Road conditions have also improved significantly, and in areas where road signs have been properly installed, decrease in car accidents has been observed. However, he stressed the need for unified governance, stronger legal frameworks, and a clear national road safety strategy to tackle the problem effectively. And when we talk about unified governance, this is across sectors, right? Between relevant ministries, internal affairs, territorial administration, education, etc. But it's just, we keep talking about it. But just the other day, Rubina, I saw a man with a baby in his lap driving. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Well, Azerbaijan continues its campaign to erase Armenian cultural heritage in Artsakh. On April 10, the country's foreign ministry held an international conference at the Gregorian University in Rome titled Christianity in Azerbaijan, History and Modernity. The university later told CivilNet that it had no role in organizing or sponsoring the event. It had simply rented out one of its auditoriums. The conference's promotional material included several religious and cultural monuments, among them the medieval Armenian monastery of Dadivang, presented as part of the so-called ancient Caucasian Albanian cultural heritage.
Yeah, it's just unending, isn't it?
Yes.
And on that note, as always, we will quickly talk about some of the articles that we published this week. Today's is called Brussels Speaks, Baku Ignores. So back on March 12th, the European Parliament passed a resolution, demanding the release of Armenian hostages in Azerbaijan. It was probably one of the clearest and strongest resolutions coming out of Europe. But of course, Baku continues to ignore the call, as we all know. The trials of Armenian prisoners of war, detainees, hostages in that country continue. And at the same time, Armenia seems to be wanting to sign a peace treaty at any cost, diluting the resolution's impact and undermining potential leverage in securing justice for its compatriots. So that article by David Khachadurian we just published today.
And we do have 3 columns this week. I'll start with Maria Kungo's Outside In, and as is all of her, as the direction of her column, she this time looks at Sunnic cities, reveals overlooked details in a very Maria Kungo-esque style. The piece is called The Subtle Details of Sunnic Cities.
And we have the next installment of Christopher Atamian's column, Art Speaks. It's about Özen, I like this name, Agopyan, Master of Light and Thread. That's the name of the article. And I found her work really interesting, Rubina, when I was looking through the images. So through layered canvases, intricate stitching, and luminous color, she fuses painting, textile, and sculpture into her works. And her art explores memory, identity, and space, honoring women's labor, evoking spiritual resonance across continents. Very interesting, for me, revelation about this artist.
Yeah, Atamian's column has been a lot of revelations for us. All these very talented and impactful artists that are having an impact in the cultural scenes of outside Armenia in other countries, and we most of the time haven't even heard their names.
That's right.
Well, last but not least, from the columns of this week, Party of One, Sheila Pailan's column Unleash. In this deeply personal reflection, she challenges cultural norms and redefines autonomy, asserting that womanhood should not be predominantly defined by motherhood. Instead, she advocates for the freedom to craft a meaningful life on one's own terms, embracing a broad spectrum of female identities and experiences.
And finally, a piece by Christina Markarian about the Women's Support Center, which is a really important initiative. They run 2 shelters for women who are survivors of domestic violence. And the piece is called Women's Support Center and Armenia's Reckoning with Domestic Violence. So it's, as I said, it's about the Women's Support Center, but also how the movement's evolution to raise awareness about domestic violence has evolved over the last 10-15 years amid persistent taboos and the struggle to really enforce protective laws and to get a law passed specifically about domestic violence has been a real struggle. It's a very interesting piece.
And first of all, to establish the fact that there is the domestic violence in Armenia, the major first challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of week it's been here in Armenia. Thank you for listening. Have a safe and peaceful weekend, and we'll be back again next week.